Module 13, Peer Observation. Classroom observation can take different forms. The two most common are summative observation, in which another teacher or an administrator observes the class. The purpose for this is evaluative and may result in a rating of some kind. And formative observation, in which two teachers or peers do a friendly observation of each other's classes. The purpose is to improve teaching practices and to engage in a systematic form of professional development. The focus in this module is on formative or peer observation. Formative observation can benefit both the observed teacher and the teacher doing the observation. In order to do so, it must be carefully organized. We will follow some teachers through the three phases of a successful observation. First, preparing for the observation, then observing in the classroom, and finally, the post-observation debriefing. Module focus, Introduction. For peer observation to work well, teachers must be trained in the observation procedure and in how to give productive, useful feedback to each other. In order to be successful, peer observation also requires that administrators see the need for peer observation, support training for the process, and create a system that allows teachers time for observing each other. In addition, administrators should guarantee that information will remain confidential and will not be used for summative purposes. Given these conditions, peer observation can allow teachers to see each other's teaching styles and reflect on their own practices, bring about positive changes in classroom learning for students, and when done with care and professionalism, it can strengthen relationships among teachers in schools. Number 1, viewing points. Preparing for the observation. Video segment number 1. Use the pre-observation guide in the manual as you watch teachers getting ready for a class observation. Look for answers to the questions, what information do they exchange during this initial talk? What information do they plan to collect during the observation? How do the teachers interact with each other?
So which of your classes am I observing?
Okay, this is going to be the 110,
okay.
The lowest of the 3 writing classes. So this class, they're basically just starting out, getting all the basic information about writing essays in English.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit more about their level? I haven't taught that class before.
Yeah, they're usually it's a mixed situation.
Okay.
We often have students in the class who have very good speaking and listening skills, while their writing skills are really low.
Okay.
And sometimes we have students who've never been in a writing class, they've never been in a speaking class, they've never been in a listening class. They've done all their studying basically from grammar books, so they'll have, all their skills will be low. So we have students who have very mixed abilities. They're not all the same.
Sounds pretty challenging. Okay, here's another question for you. What is the teaching point of the lesson that I'm going to see?
Okay, so the day that you come in, the students are actually going to just be starting to look at essay organization. All of these students have had a lot of writing experience in their own countries. They're familiar with specific styles of writing. So that's what we tell them in the 110. You know how to write. We're just teaching you to write in a different way. You're learning a new style. So what they're going to be doing that day is we're going to look at introductions, and we'll talk about how to give general information, how to write a clear main idea right in the beginning, paragraph. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about the body of the essay, developing your ideas, rolling out ideas, trying to think of what type of details would support your idea. Now, of course, since this group isn't doing something like research essay, they're writing about their own experience. So they don't have to worry about getting statistics or quoting or things like that. They're really just learning how to develop what information that they already know. And maybe we'll get to a conclusion. I'm not sure if we'll do conclusions that day, but that's the hardest part of a lot of writing for anybody, just getting everything you want to say said before you get to the conclusion and then not knowing how to finish up.
Sure.
So we'll talk a little bit about conclusions if maybe that day. I'm not sure if you're going to see that.
Good, good. Oh, it sounds very interesting. I've got one more question I have for you, and that is there anything in particular that you want me to pay attention to while I'm observing you?
Yeah, well, since this is a 110, since they're such a low-level class, and as I mentioned, they have very different listening abilities and speaking abilities, I'd like you to pay attention to the language I'm using. Is the language I'm using, does it seem to you that it is appropriate for a lower-level class in which some students may still have a very limited vocabulary?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm worried that I may be talking, addressing most of my language to the students who have more listening skills. So I'd like to know if that's happening. And the other thing is the sequencing and rhythm of the whole lesson.
Oh, okay.
Does it feel like I'm going too fast for them or too slow? Does it seem like it's a very natural process for them to go from one activity to the other? Sometimes I'm afraid that I might be rushing through something.
Okay, yeah. Sure, that sounds great.
Okay, great.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Summary. In this preparation phase, we saw that teachers spoke in a friendly and respectful way to each other. The teacher learned something about the kind of classes that she would observe, and the teacher chose the observation focus points for her own class.
Had a lot of writing experience in their own countries. They're familiar with specific styles of writing, so that's what we tell them.
Number 2, viewing points. Observing in the classroom. Video segment number 2. In this phase, you will see the teacher as she carries out